All right, good morning, everybody, and this is going to be a doozy. Most of you have seen my first Uvalde videos surrounding the very unfortunate and tragic event of the mass shooting that happened in Texas at an elementary school, perpetuated by a clearly disturbed Hispanic young man, whose name I have forgotten and don't really give a damn to mention. That's not the topic of this video anyway. I don't give a damn about the gunman at this point in time. We've already discussed that before. Look, the reason I'm making this is to address the obvious and pretty disgusting, abhorrent, and negligent action of law enforcement in the Uvalde incident. It should have never happened that way, to be quite blunt. If you're a police officer and your job is to protect and serve, that means you're a meat shield. It means that you have enlisted your masculinity as a weapon, as a tool to be front and center in the times of an atrocity like Uvalde. The idea, the reality, that we had police on standby for over an hour while parents were outside of the school fighting with said police to get to their children of their own will and volition is disgraceful. It is disgraceful, and I say this as someone who has worked not in law enforcement, but very closely with them in a position in security. Now, I'm going to take a moment to say that in security, your primary objective is to observe and report. Your job is not to put your life in danger. Your job is not to be the hero. Your job is to call the cops. Your job is to call the ones who are supposed to be legally enforced to enforce the law and use lethal force when necessary. Now, that being said, even security officers are trained when they are armed to exercise judgment along what is called the force continuum. And it's called a continuum because it can jump from 0 to 100 in literally a split second. And you are expected to behave appropriately with the appropriate amount of force at any given point in time. That is what you are trained to do. The idea that during a mass shooting that Texas police officers stood by and chose to protect their own asses rather than protect those of children is beyond the pale. It is beyond the pale because even if the school did have their own security guard, that guard's primary job was to call you. And they called you because you're supposed to be the one showing up with body armor, with bulletproof vests, with the firepower to respond to that incident. And we know you had the tools, but for some odd reason, you decided to demote yourselves to security guards. That's what's so frustrating about hearing about this incident, is that these police officers, in their own actions, demoted themselves to security officers. They did not go and save lives. As a security officer, that's not your job. As a cop, that is your job. Now, I understand how they fell for this, because I've been adjacent to that location. I understand how they said the lives of our security officers are the primary priority. When an active shooter event happens, that goes out the window even for the security guard. At least in the positions I worked in. At least in the positions I worked in, if there was immediate danger and you had to protect and serve those that you are supposed to protect and serve, you're the meat shield. You are, and there is a good chance you could be the victim. That's the reality of the job. And if you don't want that job, not only should you not ever consider being a police officer, don't get into security. If you don't want to be shot at, don't get into security. Very simple. Now, security guards obviously have a justification for not getting involved. They can call the police. The police have no such leverage. They have no such out. And the idea that they tried to hide behind such a privileged stance as to be the ones calling an emergency but not engaging in the threat, that you don't have that excuse. You don't have that mechanism. You are the final line. It's not like we're calling in the National Guard for a goddamn mass shooting, are we? No, we're still calling you. We're still calling the cops. That's who's supposed to respond to it. The fact that you waited with God knows how many enough officers to detain parents from going inside of the school themselves was the number you had. As soon as two, not one, but maybe two. As soon as two officers were on the scene, they should have been in the school. That's as much backup as you need. That's it. That whole crisis was fought off by a single man who literally borrowed a shotgun from his barber because his wife had texted him saying, "There's an active shooter at our school, please help." He grabbed the shotgun from the barber he was sitting in, rushed to the school, and killed the gunman. He didn't do so as a police officer, he did so as a father because his own child was in the school. That's who saved the day. So, Texas gets an L for that event. That is a shame. The Uvalde Police Department, you are awarded nothing. You get nothing. You deserve nothing for your actions in that tragedy. How many kids' lives could have been saved because upward of 20 died? Because when I heard the death toll, when I heard that it was in the 20s, I knew this kid ran into a classroom, locked the doors, and just shot kids like fish in a barrel. How many of those children could have been saved if someone had decided, I'm the fucking meat shield today? No, it took a father saying, my kid's in there, I need to get them out. It should not have gotten that far. If you signed up for the force, you should have been someone who, regardless of whether or not your own child was in that classroom, you should have been in there, and you should have been there anyway. Because when you sign up for the police force, I'm gonna continue this rant just a little bit longer. The assumption that you take, the mentality you should have, is that every child in that room is your child. And if that's not what you're willing to give, get the fuck out. Because you don't fucking deserve to be there. That's it, everyone. Stay carnal, and God bless.